Thank y'all very much for taking your time out to come out here tonight. I know your time's valuable, so I greatly appreciate y'all investing a little bit of time to come and listen to me talk. Hopefully this will inform you, answer some questions you may have, and give you a little more insight into what the city's role in our street infrastructure actually is. So, a quick introduction. I'm Patrick Frerick. I am the Director of Operations for the City of San Angelo. What operations is it's everything that's public works that's not water and sewer related. So we oversee 6 divisions. So our street and bridge division, traffic operations, our fleet services, stormwater, in our solid waste division, and as well as oversee all of our street rehabilitation projects that we have going on as well. So very busy, a lot to take care of, but it's definitely fun. So just kind of a quick, how did this thing happen? Brian Groves, our communications director back there, he approached me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing a town hall over streets?" Him and his team with Lorelei are very active in posting on Facebook and whatnot about the projects that we have going on and what the city's involved in. And it became obvious when you look at the comments on there that there's a lot of people that, frankly, it sounded like they didn't really understand what exactly our street infrastructure is and why we do some of the things that we do. So I said, sure, let's take this opportunity to maybe help answer some questions and provide a little bit insight into the hows and the whys and the whats of what streets are and why we do what we do with the city of San Angelo. So real quick, I want to go through and I've got a presentation here. We want to go over the street development process and the construction process, kind of what it goes into, how our streets are born, if you will, what that maintenance and rehabilitation and what those activities look like, and then update y'all on what the rehabilitation projects that we have going on, what we've already done, what we currently have going on, and then what's coming down forward in the future. So I'm going to be going through this process, but please, you guys are investing your time here. So while I think I have an idea what y'all want to know, if there's something you want to know, let me shout it out. I mean, there's a small crowd here. I think we can have a good interaction, answer the questions that y'all personally really want to know about. I mean, that's my goal here, is to give you the answers to the questions that you specifically have. So as I walk through this thing, feel free to, give me a little interruption and we can have a dialogue at that point. So. And when we get done too, there will be plenty of time to have a little Q&A session at the end. So to start off, I found this little picture. It's a fun little picture of how we all wish streets would develop out, right? Just grab it, drag it out there, and there it is. But unfortunately, it is a much more complicated process than that. Streets all start with the developers of San Angelo. Unbeknownst to a lot of people, the city of San Angelo actually we do not build streets. Our street infrastructure comes from the developers that develop this city of ours. So whenever a private owner wants to develop their land, they start with the city and they develop a plat, which is right. A plat is the start of everything. It's a drawing on a piece of paper, and it lays out that particular piece of property, all the private lots that they're going to build homes on, where the water lines are going, where the sewer lines are going, and what the layout of that street is. So the developers are actually the ones that construct city streets. We're involved in the process as far as looking at that plat, approving the layout in the street construction process and the different kinds of streets that they're proposing, and then inspecting that actual construction process. So we're involved in the process, but we don't build it. The developer uses their money and their investment in that property to build the street. Once they get it built, we accept it as a city, we sign off on it, we get a 1-year warranty, and after that 1-year period, we own it. We are responsible at that point for for everything that is related to that street in perpetuity from that point on. So it's very, very important to us to make sure that we have a design standard that's not only going to be cost effective for the developers so that they can continue to let San Angelo grow, but also that's going to provide us a piece of infrastructure that we can afford to maintain in the long term. So if we let them put in a substandard street, it's just going to cost us, the city, AKA you, the taxpayers, more in the long run. So there's a balance there that has to happen. So when I talk about we own the street and we're responsible for it moving forward, so that means our maintenance and rehabilitation processes. As you can see in the picture there, street is not just that asphalt surface that you see on top. While that's an important piece, it's by far not the most important part of a roadway. The most important part is that brown area that you see underneath there, the sub-base layer and the base layer. That's the part that gives the asphalt all of the structure to ride on. That's the most important part. It's similar to if you lay on a bed and the bed is hard, you're going to be better supported on that bed. If it's a soft bed, you're going to sink in. Same way with asphalt. If you have a solid foundation there, that roadway is going to be more solid and be able to carry a better traffic load. If it's not built up to standard, whether that's to truck traffic, car traffic, depending on what kind of traffic is on that particular roadway, then it's going to fail much quicker than what it's supposed to. The asphalt layer of a roadway actually serves two purposes. The first purpose is what we all know, right, is it's to provide that driving surface, a smooth, hard surface for our vehicles to travel upon. While that's important, again, it's not the most important part of what the asphalt is there for. The most important part the asphalt's there for is to protect that base layer. We've got to protect that base layer to make sure that our streets last. That picture there on the left shows, I think, what everybody is familiar with whenever they look at our streets is cracks in the street. That is our biggest detriment to our roadways, and it's the number one thing that we try to prevent within our roads. When we talk about cracks, it's not the crack that we're necessarily concerned about. It's what the crack cess allows. Water is the essential element of life, but is also the number one hazard for our roadways. I think you can follow the logic that if the roadway's cracked, water can get down into those cracks, and eventually it seeps down into that base layer, that base layer that we have to protect. That base layer becomes saturated, and then as those cars roll over that asphalt, it just needs that asphalt, and that asphalt moves, it pumps it, and eventually all those little fines start breaking up in that base layer. They start penetrating up through the asphalt, and you've probably noticed if you've watched, after a rain or something, you'll notice little white streaks all over the top of the roadway. That's that base material pumping up through those cracks. So our job, from a maintenance perspective with the city, is to fill in all of those cracks. There was a picture just a little bit ago about crack sealing. So all the little black lines that you see us putting down all over the roadway, that's the purpose of what we're doing. We're filling in those cracks. It's called a crack filling procedure done by our street and bridge department. The whole purpose of that is to fill in those cracks and keep that water from penetrating through and penetrating down into the base layer of the roadway. It's a pretty cool process. Brian got that picture, and I think it kind of shows it's a hot mix process. We do it in the wintertime primarily because in the wintertime that asphalt is cold, it spreads out, opens those cracks up. We get to put the material in there so that in the summertime when it heats up and through that thermogenic effect closes, it just provides a better seam. So what happens if we don't get the cracks taken care of? That water gets down in there, cars drive over it, the base layer becomes disrupted, continues on, eventually all the fines pump up and it creates a void underneath there. Continues to drive, that void gets bigger and bigger, and eventually we get a pothole. And that's basically the crux of how potholes are formed. It starts with that crack, and eventually, just due to the nature of traffic and that pattern, there's nothing to support that asphalt anymore, and it just pops out. So one of our responsibilities, as far as the city's concerned, in our street and bridge department, is filling potholes. In the past, if you go back about 8 years or so, our street and bridge department was, I don't want to say very poorly funded, but it was very underfunded. We did not have enough, basically, money to properly maintain our streets and our roadways. In the past 8 years, we've completely revamped that. We've ramped that up. We've gotten some additional people to help kind of take care of potholes, but it's a beast. It's a lot of work. The way to fix a pothole, we have two methods in the way that we do that. We have what's called a throw and go method, and it is we have a ton of them to get to, and we need to get it done, and we need to get it done quick. So we're going quantity over quality when we're in that mindset. We're throwing a bunch of material in it, we're driving over it with the pickup, and we're moving on to the next one. It's a temporary patch. We know it's going to fail, but hopefully it can provide some short-term relief to those drivers that are going down there, just so that we can kind of get the most bang for our buck and our time in that. The way that we prefer to do it is a permanent patch, and that is a lot more invasive and takes a lot more time. When you do a permanent patch, what that involves is we actually come in with the saw and we cut the asphalt out into a square patch, dig all that old material out, clean it up, retack it, put in new material, roll it, and then crack seal the edges. That's a permanent patch. That one's made to be there for the life of the asphalt. I think it's no question, though, that the amount of time differential between those two doesn't allow us to get much done. We can get about 6 to 7 potholes done in that permanent sense in a day, and that's running a 5-man crew to do that. So it takes a lot of time. It's very backbreaking. It's all shovel, pick work, handsaw work type of stuff. So it's very labor intensive, but it's the proper way to repair a pothole. I'll go into a little bit and kind of how we're transitioning a little bit later, but keep that in mind when we have that conversation moving in the future. I've talked about our street and bridge department, and I kind of want to bring in a little bit of perspective into the struggle that we have. I talked about Facebook, and a lot of the questions that we get on Facebook and through our info is, y'all aren't doing anything on the streets, y'all can't get there, y'all are just ignoring all the problems. And in our street and bridge department, we have 30 employees in our street and bridge department. In the city of San Angelo, we have a little over 1,200 lane miles of roadway to take care of every year. So to kind of put that in perspective for everyone, each street and bridge employee is responsible for 1 lane of road from San Angelo to Ballinger every year. So that's repairing every crack, every pothole, every edge, every deficiency, every weed that's growing in the gutter, all of that. So it kind of brings a little bit of perspective into what those crews are tasked with every year. I told you that we can get 6 to 7 potholes done in a day. They're doing it every day. We have 2 crews that are going through and crack sealing every day. In the wintertime, ahead of our chip seal program, which I'll talk about here in a second. But that's unfortunately not all that this department does. This department also branches out. They're the department that takes care of our mosquito spraying. So in April, whenever the mosquitoes, our little friends, are out flying around, they're out early morning, late evening, spraying for mosquitoes, putting in dunks into the water to kill the larvae. They're also the group, we in the operations department, we like to say we're the boys with the toys. We're the department that anytime somebody needs help in the city, we get called to go help. So anytime there's illegal dumping on the side of the road, this department goes and takes care of it. And anytime there's a bunch of weeds and vegetation growing up, this department goes and takes care of it. Anytime we have to move an internal city department, this department comes and takes care of it. Right there is a great example of kind of the special things that we get to do. This department were the group that was standing out in the sub-freezing temperatures, handing out bottles of water whenever we had our major freeze back in 2021. They spent hours and hours and hours out in the cold with no reprieve while their families sat at home dealing with the same things that our citizens were dealing with. And they fortunately neglected their families to provide that service for the city. And I say that to provide a little bit of a testament into just how committed and how dedicated those guys are. They're not only working their 7 to 4 job, but they're working overtime almost every day to help take care of this. And they take a lot of pride in what they do. You'll see Facebook posts on their personal Facebook pages showing a major patch that they're proud of that they got done. So they love their job, but they have a monumental task ahead of them. So I appreciate everything that they do. They work very, very hard to keep our streets going, and we in the operations department try to provide that resource and that help that they need to do their job appropriately. So the Street and Bridge Department is responsible for everything up until the time that we do major preservation on our streets. And when I talk about preservation, there's a couple different ways that we do that. Our preservation methods are no different than you changing the oil in your car or changing the filter in your air conditioning unit. It's a necessary process in order to make sure that your thing lasts as long as it possibly can. The number one way that we preserve our streets is through seal coating or chip seal. I think everybody's well aware of what seal coating is. You may not understand it completely, but when we put the tar down on the road and we come over it with a layer of gravel, that's what seal coating is. Seal coating is by far the best bang for your buck when it comes to filling in all those cracks that are across the street. Our crack seal program fills in the wider stuff, but seal coat the purpose of seal coat is to come in and provide that sealing layer across all the cracks on the roadway. I also think it's no question, though, that there are some downfalls that come along with seal coating. Everyone's aware of the loose rock. Everyone's aware, I can't walk on the street. It's too rocky. You can hear it on your tires when your tires pick it up and throw it against your car. We, from a political sense, don't like seal coat, but it's by far the best product that we can put down on the street in order to provide that preservation of our roadways. Because of those negatives, though, we've been able to branch out, and we found an alternate technique that's called HA5. It's a high-density mineral bond. What HA5 is basically it's a top coating of an asphalt polymer blend material with a little bit of aggregate in it that's microfine, you can't see it. But it provides that same protection on the roadway, but you don't have that rock component on the top of it. It's been super successful for us in the areas that we've placed HA5. It provides that same protection to the roadway. It lasts, the black color of it, that aesthetic value of it lasts for anywhere from 5 to 8 years, so it doesn't oxidize and turn gray like a normal roadway does. The downfall to HA5 has a very select window of roadways that it can actually be applied upon. It has to be a roadway that's in much better condition than most of our roadways here in town. So any of our older roadways in town are going to get that chip seal program. Our newer roadways, we're trying to focus more on the HA5 program just because of the benefits of it over seal coat. Avenue N, so the question was if we'd used seal or HA5 on Avenue N, and no, we did not. That was a chip seal job. Avenue N, or HA5, you've seen it kind of in the upper Southland area. We used it. We've used it over in the Prestonwood area, off of Twin Mountain Drive, in those areas. Some of the newer streets around Bentwood, we've used it in those areas. So again, It's our preferred method. It's a little more costly than seal coat is, but it only works on a select condition of street. So we can't use it everywhere like we would like to. One of the things that the city's looking at, or that we're looking at for this coming year, is we've come across a product that's being used across several municipalities around Texas. That's very similar to HA5, very similar to that application, but it's a process that we can do in-house. And so where HA5 is costing us about $2.30 a square yard, we can do the in-house process for about 75 cents a square yard. So we're looking at what does that equipment take? What does that program look like? San Antonio's been using it for a lot of years, so we're going through the demonstrations with them and watching that program and kind of getting some advice from them to see if that's something that we can incorporate with our crews internally to kind of have some money and provide better protection for our roadways in-house. Another thing that we've done, and so let me back up just 1 second if I can and talk about our mindset. In 2015, I told y'all that our street and bridge department was heavily underfunded. We had about $600,000 to do seal coating and all of our maintenance activities coming into that. In 2015, we got a new council, and they redirected their focus onto streets, and they kind of put their money where their mouth was. And they not only said, we want you to take care of the streets, but here's an extra $4 million a year to do that. So we took our seal coat program from about $250,000 a year up to $3.5 million a year. With that money allocation, they gave us a goal to seal coat every street in town every 8 years. Last year, we accomplished that goal. We hit either a seal coat or an HA5 on every roadway in San Angelo in 8 years. We're going to skip this year, focus on some downtown stuff that we have that we need to take care of, and then next year we're going to start that process over again and hit them again so that we can keep, the whole point of preservation is not to improve the road, but to keep it from deteriorating any further. Seal coat, one of the biggest complaints we get from seal coat is, y'all did all this work on the road and it's no smoother than it was before. That's not the point of seal coat. Seal coat is not to smooth out the roadway. Seal coat is literally to protect the roadway from any further deterioration than it already is. When we start talking about improving the roadway, that's when we move into our rehabilitation processes. Unfortunately, excuse me, this is, again, beyond what we can do in-house. This is a subcontractor work for us. When our streets get to the point that they're just not rideable anymore, they're rough, and they need to be redone, we have a couple of different options. The first option there that is the cheapest option for us is a mill and overlay. So what a mill and overlay does is it comes in and it's a machine that comes in and it strips the asphalt layer off of the roadway. We come in and we check the base layer. We call it proof rolling to see if there's any soft spots in that base. If there are, we fix them, and then we come back and we repave a new asphalt layer over the top, a 2-inch asphalt layer over the top. It's a mill and an overlay of asphalt. Mill and overlay is about $35, $40 a square yard when we look at that. But again, it's a process that gives us a new rideable surface, but it doesn't touch that base material. So if any base is compromised, it's eventually going to show back up. The most invasive or the most extreme way to redo a street is a full reconstruction. What a full reconstruction does is, you'll see by that little red line up there, is it's the same milling process, but instead of just milling the asphalt off, it removes everything that's part of the road all the way down to the subbase. So it doesn't touch the subbase, but all the base material, all the asphalt, all of that is ground up, thrown into a truck, and hauled off. Brand new virgin material is brought in, a new base layer is laid down, compacted, watered in, tested for density, and then a new asphalt layer is put on top. Usually, well, not usually, with the reconstruction process though, comes new curb and gutter, new valley gutters, drainage components, all of that is taken care of when we talk about reconstruction. So College Hills is a full reconstruction, yes. So College Hills is a full reconstruction. MLK, part of MLK was a full reconstruction. Part of it was a mill and overlay. Bell Street was a full reconstruction. A&M that you just saw got done, that was a mill and overlay. College Hills South from the Loop to Valley View, that was a mill and overlay. And if I can use that College Hills south of the Loop to Valley View as an example, if any of y'all ever drive down that, you see there's large patches in that. We redid that road in 2017, so it's only 6 years old, but because it was just a mill and overlay and didn't necessarily address the base problems, those reflected through and we still had issues. So we came in there, patched and reconstructed the base in those small sections and had to repatch. So we'll be putting a chip seal on that road this year to make sure that we preserve that roadway and that investment as we can. Again, I talked a little bit about that mindset shift. So we've always been historically a reactive department. We've always taken a complaint and we went and fixed the complaint. We always waited till a road failed before we did anything to it. We've tried to shift our mindset from being a reactive department to a proactive department. We're doing more street preservation. We're using different methods and focusing more on trying to get those potholes fixed and those cracks filled. And we've used new technologies to help us do that. We've incorporated here recently a rejuvenation process in-house so that when an asphalt goes down, within the first 3 to 4 months, we come back over and we put a polymer over the top of it that basically lotions up the asphalt so it stays pliable, so it stays active, and so it doesn't deteriorate as fast, so it can take those loads. We bought the material, or we bought the equipment, and we buy the material, and we do that in-house on all of our new roadways. So any new subdivision work that goes in, we're there doing that. We've seen the value of that. We're able to put that method down for about 55 cents a square yard. What that does is it gains us about 4 years before technically we should have to come in and do any type of a preservation HA5 or otherwise method on that. It buys us some time. But what we're doing is on the newer roadways, we're not waiting. We're coming in and we're throwing a layer of HA5 down on top of that to provide a sunscreen to that roadway so that sun and those UV lights don't oxidize that road and deteriorate them. We want to maximize those investments. We want to minimize the amount of money that we have to put in the future on those roadways. So we're being more proactive than we've ever been on our roadways. Unfortunately, some of our roads are so far gone that there's really no point in doing a whole lot to them. We'll put a chip seal on them, try to keep them from deteriorating any further. But until we can come in there and redo them completely, they're going to be what they are. We are looking at a new technology or a different way to patch potholes this year. I'll admit it is different from what we've ever done. It's not the prettiest application, so it doesn't get that nice pretty patch, but it provides a repair that lasts longer than even a permanent patch. It's a better product, and we're estimating anywhere from 45 to 50 potholes a day with 2 people versus 6 people. It's an investment of about $300,000 into equipment, but it's a spray patcher. Again, it's not going to be the prettiest thing in the world that you're going to see, but by God, it's going to work. And we're going to be able to really knock them out. Right now on our pothole list, we have about 300. We fluctuate anywhere from 300 to 500 potholes in our backlog that we have to take care of. Far more than we can take care of doing 5 or 6 of them a day. So hopefully with this new equipment, we can come in there and really start making a big impact on that stuff and get the potholes taken care of very, very quickly. Our goal is to do that, come over the top of that with the chip seal, And hopefully you won't even be able to tell the difference aesthetically from a visual perspective, but it should help us protect our roadways and provide that longevity. That's the type of thing that this current council is allowing us to do. They're allowing us to branch out from what we've always done and giving us the flexibility as staff to go out and find these new techniques, find these new opportunities, and really vet them out and test them so that we can invest back into our infrastructure of the city. One of the cool things, talking about new techniques and new applications that the city's using, is full depth reclamation. So I talked about a mill and overlay at $35 a yard. I don't know if I told you that full reconstruction is about $175 a yard. So for every, this big, that's $175 that you're putting into the road. FDR is a process that is similar to mill and overlay, that gets you the benefit of the full reconstruction for about $55 a square yard. It's the process that the first time we ever used it was right out here on Rio Concho Drive. That roadway was technically never supposed to be a roadway. It was a parkway. It was made to just low and slow and cruise the river. And so it didn't really even have a base structure underneath it. To any city standard. Unfortunately, as the city grew, the traffic patterns changed on that roadway, so we needed to do something on it. It was horribly rough. We needed to do something. The only true thing that we could do was a full reconstruction, but we didn't have the money for that. So we're vetting out this full reclamation FDR process. And so what this FDR process does is it takes the gravel layer that's underneath, the asphalt layer, and it grinds it up and it chews all of that together. It adds some cement to it, and it adds asphalt, liquid asphalt to it, puts all that, mixes it together, puts it down, and rolls it out. In the matter of 3 hours, you have a base that is drivable at that point that's almost just as solid as a full asphalt layer. In fact, in the oil field, they don't even put asphalt on top of it. They run their trucks over the top of this just straight away. It's just a testament to kind of how good of a process it is. Our inspectors, when we came and did a density test, we actually had one of those inspectors quit because they could not pound their stake into the ground. They were having to hammer drill a hole to put their stake through it so that they could test the density on that particular roadway. It gives us an amazing base structure then that we can come in and put our asphalt layer over the top of. So for the cost savings of about $120 a square yard, we're able to use this product, get a better roadway that's going to last longer, and save a whole bunch of money on it. So we're starting to incorporate this process into more and more of our designs. The next road you're going to see this being used on is on Chadburn Street, going toward the Coliseum out there. So we are finally getting something done on Chadburn Street. Right now they're working on that roadway, getting kind of the prep work done. As soon as the stock show's done, they're going to be coming in, the contractor's going to be coming in and doing this FDR process on that roadway, going to knock it out in about a month and a half and be ready for the stock show is our goal. So we should have a fully repaved, restriped road in time for the stock show. That's our goal. That's what we've been working with the contractor for. If we were to fully reconstruct that road like we intended to do, that is probably a 30 to 32 month process. We're knocking it out in a month and a half with FDR and saving $120 a square yard doing it. So when people say, why did you wait so long to do Chadburn? It's horrible. Why are you ignoring it? When are you going to do it? We delayed it while we vetted this process out because we knew doing a mill and overlay on Chadburn Street wasn't going to work. We had to redo the elevations for drainage purposes. We didn't have enough money to reconstruct that long of a roadway. We really wanted to vet this out and do this, and so we kind of pumped the brakes on bidding that project out. We actually redesigned that roadway 3 times, tweaked the design. I don't want to say redesign. Tweaked the design until we are finally comfortable with this FDR process and we can get this amazing roadway in a budget that fits and save a lot of money for it. So finally getting it going, but that was the reason we delayed, is we wanted to really maximize the bang for our buck on that roadway, because we knew it's a corridor. It's a major corridor into the north side of town, to the Coliseum, and we really wanted to make something good out of that roadway. We knew that we weren't going to be successful if we went in there mill and overlaid it, and in 2 years it was rough again. That's not a success for us. That's not a win. So that's a very good segue, Kai. Thank you for that, into kind of more of the nuance on what we consider whenever we go into our street projects. I'm going to flip sides. I don't know exactly what's next, but I think it's no question that there's no point in redoing the roadway if you're just going to come back a month later and fix a water line that blew up underneath that roadway. We're well aware of that. So in every street project that we do, we come in beforehand and we replace the water infrastructure, we'll replace the sewer infrastructure. If we can, we move any of the fiber or any of that infrastructure out from underneath the roadway, and we redo all of those underground utilities first, and then we come back and redo the roadway. That's why on College Hills North, we started 2 years ago on College Hills North, and we finally just got it repaved. Well, when we started on the infrastructure. We started on all the underground stuff. Have to get that done first before you can put asphalt on top. It only makes sense. Our underground utilities are just as bad as our streets are. You just can't see them. So that's been a push, and luckily our water department capital has been able to follow our street portion, so we drive that program for them. They follow suit with our street reconstruction program. So we kind of talk about, how do we figure out exactly what streets we want to get done? Back in 2015 that I keep referring to, we did a street study in San Angelo. And at the time, we kind of got lambasted by the public on, why are you spending all this money on a street study? I can tell you the roads that are bad. You don't need to do this. Well, the reason we did it is what that did is it looked at every street in town and it told us, you can get by with a mill and overlay on this street. You need to fully reconstruct this street. So it didn't just look at how rough the street was. It looked at, what does that base structure look like? Can I get by with $35 a square yard, or do I need to spend $175 a square yard? That's what that study did for us. And it prioritized those roadways based on the traffic patterns on them, that are how many vehicles are driving on them, what the current condition was, and what level of repair or rehabilitation they needed. So we got that priority list, and that's why you see MLK, then Bell Street, College Hills South, now College Hills North, Chadbourne Street, Howard Street, Jackson, South Concho. I'll go through all of those here in a second, but it did no good to find out the information if we weren't going to do something with it. So that's where council, again, put their money in their mouth was. Not only gave us the extra $4 million a year for maintenance activities, but they said, we're going to give you $80 million over the course of the next 10 years to rehab the streets, to rebuild the roadways that need to be rebuilt. So we get $16 million every other year. 2016 was the first issue. This next spring will be the final issue for us on that $80 million. And so that $80 million only covers arterial and collector streets. So the street that runs in front of your home will probably never be touched by this, simply because it doesn't have enough traffic on it. We got to get, again, that bang for our buck. We want to take care of the roadways where most people are driving, where it's feeling all of that traffic burden, and then taking care of those first. So with that $80 million, here's the projects that we were able to finish with that. So MLK Boulevard was our very first one. That was subsidized by a grant that we got through TxDOT for some pedestrian amenities along that. Then we took care of Southland Boulevard right there by Sam's and Walmart. In between that short section there, College Hills West from the Loop to Valley View. Concho Avenue right off of Bryant right there, or Cohenheim. We did Rio Concho Drive. That actually was paid from our maintenance dollars and not out of the bond dollars, but it was still a capital improvement there. Bell Street, Southwest Boulevard, and then South Chadburn downtown and A&M Street. We've got those done. What are we currently working on? It's no secret. We have College Hills Boulevard that we've been working on for a little while now. We still have some time to go on that one. We've always said that's going to be a 30-month project. It's going to be a long time. Believe it or not, that project is actually on schedule right now. And contrary to what some may say, we are very aware of the disruption that our projects take. We said from the get-go that College Hills is going to be brutal, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be disruptive. Unfortunately, there's no other way to do it. When you're doing the type of project that we did with College Hills, widening the street, providing better lanes, adding a sidewalk and an ADA component to that, adding an $8 million drainage structure underneath the roadway, as well as redoing all the underground infrastructure for water, sewer, fiber, and all of that along with it. Man, it's a beast. And but like I said, thankfully, the citizens in that area overwhelmingly have been supportive of it. Hopefully on the north side, they see the end result of what it's going to be when we get done. And ultimately, we're very conscious of that, and we try to make as little impact on the people in that area as we possibly can. Believe it or not, you may think I'm lying, but we actually, as staff, do a considerable amount of thinking when it comes to how we phase in our projects and how we provide traffic and what streets we close down and when we close them down and how we close them down. There's a lot of thought process that goes into that when you're looking at that. We're currently working on Jackson Street, right there by Chick-fil-A from Knickerbocker to the railroad tracks. Howard Street is getting full rehabilitation all the way from Edmond all the way to Sherwood Way. So you're seeing that work going on right now. They're in the utility phase, kind of on that north side. They're working on the street portion already. And then, not on this list, but North Chadburn's going as well. So we actually have 5 streets projects going on at one time. One of the little tidbits of feedback that we get on a pretty regular basis is, why don't you finish one project before you start another one? All these projects have phases. The underground utilities, and then the base material, and then the paving, and then the sidewalk, and the concrete work, and on and on and on. We can roll if you look at each one of these projects, they're all in a different phase of their life, of their rehabilitation. College Hills, was initially gone, and they got the utility infrastructure done. They're done with the underground stuff. That same group that did the College Hills Underground is now working on Howard Street Underground, while the concrete guys are working on College Hills. So it's this dance between these 5 projects that's happening with the various crews, the various means, and the various methods that go into a full street rehabilitation. It doesn't do us any good to put off Howard Street for 10 more months until College Hills is done, and then start Howard Street, and then wait 18 months for Howard Street to get done before I start Jackson Street, and then wait another 12 months for Jackson Street to be done before I start North Chadburn Street. I'm already 3 years out. Why would I do that when I can get 5 streets going all at the same time and knock this stuff out in as short amount of time as I possibly can? That's where we're going. That's our mindset, and why we have multiple projects going on all at one time is because we want to get them done. We want to give our citizens in the city of San Angelo an amazing roadway to drive on, an amazing infrastructure to use as quickly as we possibly can.
What's exactly happening on Jackson Street? I've seen where it's being done.
So Jackson Street is it's getting a full reconstruction on Jackson Street. So right now they're working on all the underground infrastructure. They're going to come in and we're going to widen that portion of Jackson Street. We're actually going to be adding a turning lane. We're going to be adding sidewalks all the way down both sides there for some connectivity, and enhancing push buttons and all of those ADA components around that intersection as well.
Oh, that turning lane's going to be real good.
It is.
Some of that, right
So not yet. The only project to date that we've actually been able to use grant dollars on was MLK. We were able to put in some bike lanes and some sidewalks and stuff with a grant project on MLK. I take that back. Chaburn Street downtown, that streetscape downtown, the street portion was not paid for by the grant, but all of the pet amenities, the sidewalks, the crossings, all of that stamp, that was all done through a TxDOT grant. So we have been able to leverage our money through TxDOT grants in order to enhance some of these projects. One of the things to note too with our projects, and this is a requirement that came down from the feds, anytime we do a process of mill and overlay or better, right? So anything that's a mill and overlay or more intense, we have to improve the ADA components that touch that roadway as well. So any of the ramps that are involved, we have to do that. Any of the push buttons and the audible chirps at signalized intersections, we have to take care of that. If there's a pathway or an indication that a sidewalk needs to be there, we have to take care of that as well, adjacent to these projects. That is a requirement by the feds. So another one of those little feedbacks we get is, why are y'all putting sidewalks down? The answer right now is because we have to on these projects. Otherwise, the Federal Highway Association actually comes down and files a case against us for not doing that. They've done that in several municipalities around town, or around the state, around the nation. The city of Dallas, for instance, I think they have to invest $120 million-ish in pedestrian infrastructure upgrades as demanded by the feds, because they weren't doing it as part of their projects as they were required to. So like on Howard Street, you're getting sidewalks all the way down it. College Hills, you're getting sidewalks all the way down that thing. Most of our projects like that, we are going to be throwing in those pet amenities all the way down them. One of the things that, again, council gave us the privilege of doing was hiring a grant administrator for our public works department. The Biden administration has thrown a ton of money out there in grant opportunities for infrastructure, and we're going to grab every bit of that we can. We've been awarded, most recently, we got a $500,000 or $400,000 grant to create a safety action plan that addresses safe mobility for all forms of transportation, walking, handicap access, biking, electric scooters, and that kind of sort, as well as vehicular. We're going to create that plan, which sets us up in the future for implementation money, construction money. That's coming down, so we're getting that rolling, going to leverage that money. And most of these grants, we can leverage our money at a 20-80 match. So for every 20% we put in, they're matching 80% of that dollar coming down. So we do have intentions of maximizing and applying for mitigation grants to help different areas of town with flooding issues that they may have from a hazard mitigation standpoint, just infrastructure. So we're actively seeking those grants. We're putting in applications. We got 4 additional applications in right now. Most recently, we were graciously awarded by TxDOT a grant to the tune of $18.7 million to put in a connectivity loop, all that connects various neighborhoods, various amenities around town, all the way around San Angelo. So it was the second largest grant that TxDOT awarded. We were right behind the city of Dallas. They were at $22 million. We got $18.7 million. And for a little town in San Angelo that's never gotten a grant award like that before, that's pretty amazing. It's going to let us do something that, quite frankly, we would not have the opportunity to do otherwise. We're going to be able to put a connective path all the way from downtown, down Chaburn Street to 29th Street, all the way around Glenna, Edmond, 29th, to the loop, over the top of the loop, down to Arden Road, down Arden Road to Sherwood Way, down Avenue N to the college, down Johnson Street, connecting back up to Knickerbocker, and then as well as along Beauregard from the Bryant all the way to Shannon, and connecting those medical facilities to schools, to neighborhoods, to restaurants and businesses and parks. And It's an amazing project, and it's all grant funded at 20 cents on the dollar. It's a huge opportunity for San Angelo. It's a huge honor for San Angelo to get this. It's going to take a lot of work, but in the end, it's going to give something that's really going to make our town pretty amazing when it's case. That is just an example of the type of thing that we're shooting for in our department to kind of help improve San Angelo and improve our infrastructure all the way around. So we're not just focusing on streets, we're focusing on everything to make San Angelo better all the way around. Future projects, we're not done yet. Well, I told you we have another round of funding that's coming up. Sunset Boulevard is in design. Glennon 29th is going to get a rehabilitation on their roadway. Johnson Street is going to get a rehabilitation. Avenue N's not on there, but Avenue N is another one on that list, as well as Cristobal Road out there by the base. So a lot of projects yet to do. But we're running out of funding. We're already starting those conversations with council and city management on what do we do next and how do we keep going and what opportunities do we have. So we're not done. We're going to continue doing this thing. I think what's telling, though, if you can kind of look back at that list, when you speak about $80 million, it sounds like a lot of money. But when you look back at that list, there's really not a whole lot that got done with that when you come look at San Angelo as a whole. That's just a testament to how expensive these projects are and how much it takes to get these things done. And why we focus on the roadways that we do focus on, so that the majority of traffic in town is riding on a good roadway when we come down, when they leave and go to and from work and from their various locations. So we have a big goal. That 2015 study told us when it was all said and done that at that time we had about $367 million in deficiencies in our roadways alone. That number right now with inflation is over $600 million. So it's a huge task ahead of us, but we're doing our darndest to improve every day, implement new ways in our departments to make things better, to preserve what we have, protect our investments that we have made on our roadways, and continue to make our bad roadways better and continue just make San Angelo great, the great city that it actually is. And so that's kind of the end of the presentation. Hopefully I didn't ramble on. Hopefully I gave y'all some good information there, but I would love to hear from you guys. Any questions, any thoughts, comments, and expound on what do y'all want to know about now that we got all that done.
So Patrick, you mentioned on the milling, that material is then toted away. Is that recycled in some form or fashion? Is it able to be blended with maybe larger aggregate and then?
So yes, while we haul off our millings, we don't discard the millings. That's actually one of the things that we negotiate with contractors in whenever we contract that project out, is who gets to keep that product, because it does have a residual value for us. We retain a whole bunch. We got a whole bunch of it stockpiled up, and we use those millings. We can reuse them in some situations. We put them in alleyways that are subject to high water demand or high, impact to water or flooding issues, where base material would typically wash away. The millings provides a little bit better surface that lasts a little bit longer in that regard. We use them throughout. We have some opportunity to add rejuvenator to them and kind of repave with them, if you will. We don't really like to do that necessarily, though, but we do reuse those millings. The contractor likes to retain them as well, because any TxDOT job, state job that they do, TxDOT actually has a requirement for a percentage of millings that they have to put into their new asphalt. Millings goes into new asphalt too. It's not just a brand new virgin material. There's a percentage of that is old asphalt that they reincorporate into that. So TxDOT has that requirement in their spec. We don't necessarily have that in our spec for the city, but we as a department, Street and Bridge Department, retain those millings and reuse them where we can, where it's advantageous to. Yes. Yes, sir.
I just want to get on the record, I know we had new projects I wanna mention that old Benfica Road where the new Walmart is, have y'all seen, you know where that road's at?
Yes, sir.
Right from Rio Vista School up.
Right in front of the school there.
10th of a mile. I just wonder, is there any funds or any grants like we were mentioning to improve that? Because there's a lot of pedestrian walks and no sidewalks.
Right.
People just walk on the
Right.
side there.
And so,
It's real narrow, it's a 1940 bridge, I think.
so one of the cool things that we have that we're kind of setting ourselves up for is the short answer to your question about Rio Vista, right there in front of Rio Vista, next to Walmart, and if there's anything, it is not on any list of our roadways to redo as far as a street rehabilitation project. But the safety action plan that I told you we got a grant for the other day is taking a look at those things. So when you say that there's a whole bunch of people that walk there and there's no sidewalks and it's right in front of a school and there's shopping there and there's all of those things come into play into that safety action plan and say, hey, maybe this is a roadway where we really need to do a safety improvement because there's a lot of stuff going on in this particular roadway. So once that safety action plan identifies those type of projects, now I have a future grant opportunity to come in and leverage some money so I can pay 20 cents on the dollar to fix that kind of a roadway where typically we wouldn't have that money to do it. So that's where I say we're looking at these opportunities and we're trying to find those ways to take care of those roadways that aren't necessarily on a list, but have a need to be redone. Right in front of a school, a lot of people walking, children, drop-offs. Yeah, that little narrow bridge right there. There's a lot of opportunity with that particular roadway. So I'm not going to say it's happening tomorrow or anytime soon, but there's a better opportunity now than there ever has been in the past to take care of some of that kind of stuff.
You said also earlier about being proactive instead of reactive, and that's what I mentioned to one of our commissioners or councilmen. And let's not wait till an accident happens, or somebody gets run over, and then we're, oh my goodness, why didn't we widen the street up, you know?
Right.
I understand what you're saying, it's not just snap your fingers and it's
Right.
done. There's a process, and that's, I just want to mention that, if anybody's.
And I think, and those are the type of feedbacks we really need as staff. Because especially, and even when it comes down to maintenance and potholes, if there's a pothole that you're aware of that needs to be fixed, please let us know. There's a couple different ways. We have an email site that you can email it to. You can call our office and tell us. We don't have time to go out and find work. We've got plenty of work to do. So if you will call us and tell us that this thing needs to be done, it gets it on the list. And hopefully we can get out there and get it popped and taken care of. If it's not on the list, then we're going to keep working down the list. So anything that you know about for this, that type of situation, let us know about those too, because in these grant opportunities, it says, is there a need here? How many times has this been reported? Is there a desire here? We're going to be having town hall. One of our requirements is public engagement and public education as far as the grant. And so it's an opportunity for people to come in and say, this is a project that needs to be done. This is high on my priority list. This is where I see a deficiency that needs to be taken care of, so that we can codify all of those and get those on our list of things to take care of. If and when those opportunities come up, we may have some small things. I talked about maximizing our maintenance dollars. If I can redirect some of our staff into 2 people taking care of 50 potholes versus 6 people taking care of 6. Now, I've got 4 people and some time and a little extra money to go do some stuff that I probably wouldn't have done before. No, you're good.
I could ask, does this project, I'm talking about all that, does it qualify for the CIP program?
It does. Any of those projects fall in the CIP program because it can be listed in that program.
That's why I wanted to make sure.
Right.
Listed on this, so they can look at it at least.
So that it's at least on the radar. Right. Yes, sir.
I have a couple of issues related to, not so much construction, but lane markings and striping. One on the Bryant's, there's 3 different parts of Bryant, for example, going south on A, turning right on Avenue J. There's no turn lane, a wide stripe that says to turn there. And if we're from here, we know that's a turn lane, but a lot of people, I have a lot of people that come out of town and visit me. Why isn't there a turn lane? Another example is going north on Coneytime, turning right onto Concho at the YMCA. A lot of people turn there, but there's not a stripe for a turn lane. And then one other example is going north on Bryant, turning right onto 29th. Again, a lot of people turn right, but there's no striped turn lane.
So there's a couple things going on there. Number one, the way, when you're talking about designated turn, those particular areas aren't necessarily designed to have a dedicated turn lane on them. So that's why you're not seeing the actual stripe in those particular areas. Our ordinance does say that when you pull up to in an intersection, you should hug more to the left to allow a right turn movement if somebody wants to progress and turn to the right. So our ordinance allows for that. That brings up a good point, though, that not a lot of people are aware of is just because we're in the city limits doesn't mean it's a city-maintained roadway. The state actually owns and maintains several roads through town. So Knickerbocker Road, Sherwood Way, the Bryants, Pulliam, Arden Road coming in, all those major thoroughfares like that, those are all state roads. So TxDOT maintains them. TxDOT dictates what happens on them. In that regard, we have a maintenance agreement with them for certain things. Like the city of San Angelo controls all the signal timings on there. So how traffic moves through those corridors, we control that. But as far as the maintenance of the actual roadway, TxDOT is responsible for all of that. We maintain the signals, so we fix them if they're hit, repair them if there's damages, if there's a lightning strike or whatever, we do all of that. We work in conjunction with TxDOT for grant opportunities. You saw on Avenue L and Avenue N, those two intersections just got completely redone. Those were two grants that we paid for the design on. TxDOT paid for the actual construction of those. You'll see another one going on at 29th and Bryant. That's another one that's about to happen, as well as Sherwood Way and Arden Road. We've got several of those that are moving in that regard. But again, there's a whole section of roadways that are TxDOT owned and maintained. We have those listed out on our website. If you go to that website, that CosaTX.streets, those are spelled out there on what that is. And we've gotten to where we have a very good working relationship with TxDOT here recently between the city and TxDOT. So we coordinate with those guys on a regular basis, and I think have made some really good strides moving forward in a cooperative way where that hadn't necessarily happened in the past. So,
And just one other striping issue on Concho downtown, going east, and you get to Chadburn. That new construction project's finished, but the striping.
it's not finished yet. It's on the list to get done. Yep. Yeah, the when we changed that limit of that road, that striping didn't necessarily get changed into there. So we've got it changed into another project. We're just waiting for a thermal striping crew. So it's not just paint on a roadway. Striping isn't just paint. It's actually a thermoplastic material that melts down into the roadway and embeds itself on that road. So while we can paint stripes, and we do that in some cases, paint only lasts about 3 to 4 months on a typical roadway. So we try not to paint it. Any of our striping that you see along with Seal Coat or new projects, that's all thermo striping. It has a duration of about 5 to 6 years. The reflectivity of it lasts a lot longer. If it gets dirty and it loses its reflectivity, we can usually just pressure wash it off and get it shiny and white again. So the city can't do thermo striping in a big sense. We can do small things where you can throw a piece down and kind of heat it up with the pear burner and let it soak in, but you can understand how tedious that is versus doing long line striping like that. So we have to wait for a contractor to come in and get that done. But it's on the list, along with MLK Boulevard is on the list to get restriped too. We're just waiting.
Patrick, how are some of these paved alleyways and things, how are those kind of looked at in the big scope of things? And for instance, behind our office there's been a tremendous amount of underground utilities that have been done over the last 5 years. And it has just really deteriorated. And that goes from Twisted Root on over to Casa de Cor.
Right.
that stretch there has just really deteriorated significantly.
Right, so alleys are another portion of right-of-way that our street and bridge department is responsible for. So we do maintain alleys. In a typical alley, if you have a pothole or whatnot, you can call the street and bridge department and they'll come in and they'll take care of that alleyway. In most cases, and I'll answer your question here in a second. I just kind of want to build on what alleyways are. Alleyways aren't necessarily designed to travel upon, to provide access to the rear of a house. An alleyway that's unpaved is designed for utility purposes. It's to provide gas, water, sewer, electric, fiber, any of those type of utilities to the home. So it's not, while it provides access to the back of your house, that's not its primary function. Its primary function is to provide utilities access to your house. There are some houses, though, in some neighborhoods that have paved alleys and rear entry garages. In those cases, the developers at the time who developed that decided that for their marketing purposes or whatever, they wanted to put their garages and their carports in the back of the home. And so if that's the case, we require those alleyways to be paved. While it is our responsibility to maintain those alleyways, I think you can understand that if I'm looking at investing money in repaving an alleyway or investing money in repaving a street, one's a clear winner as far as, again, that bang for that buck and what we do. Would I love to come in and have an alley maintenance paving program? Absolutely, I would love to do that. Unfortunately, I can't afford to maintain every alley in town that's paved. So in most cases, if there's a huge problem like that, we'll do a select project and we'll come in and we'll fix that particular alley. If it's paved, we'll pave it back again. We'll go back with the condition that it was originally in. If it's an unpaved alley, we're not going to come in and pave it. Even if you say, I park my RV in the back and I can't get back there because it's muddy, I can't afford to pave that alley. I'm sorry. That's not the purpose of that alley. Again, it's for utility purposes. And that in the case of a paved alley, though, it is intended to be an accessible alley and provide vehicular access to a particular property. So in extreme scenario, we will come in and fix those alleyways. We just need to be aware of it again, that type of thing. So when you start talking about utilities, the city owns water and sewer utilities, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. There's gas, electric, fiber, that goes along with that. Those three are called franchise utilities. They're owned by a private entity that the city has no control over. We grant them access through a franchise agreement, access to our right-of-ways to put their infrastructure in our right-of-way, but we do not own that infrastructure. So any damages, any repairs, anything like that on gas, sewer, or electricity is done by the franchise utility and not the city. We inspect those to make sure that they repair any damages that they make. If they tear up your paved alley, they're required to go in and fix it. If they trench in the roadway, they're required to go back and fix it, and our inspectors do chase that down. I don't think it's any question that with the amount of fiber installs that are going on right now, that's a chore for our inspectors. We got 2 guys that are just beating it every day to stay on top of those installation crews, and they do an amazing job. We get emails constantly, copied on emails telling them, hey, you need to go fix this spot, you need to fix this spot. They're staying on top of it. So, again, but if there's one that we missed or something, then same thing. Get it on our list, please, so we can get it taken care of in that. So, again, if there's an alleyway like you're talking about there, then we'll go take a look at it, see what we can do. It may just be a patch. It may be something that we need to redo. We just need to weigh that,
Sure.
what that is there, so. Any other questions? I know we're well over our allotted time, so I apologize for that, but I think in the end, hopefully what you understood is that we care a lot about our streets. There's a lot of thought that goes into our process. there's a lot of means and methods and conversation that happens. We don't do things just on a whim. We don't do things just to cause as much disruption as we can. We do things and ultimately to provide a better infrastructure for our citizens. We love our jobs. We love what we do, whether that's filling potholes or managing which streets are going to be repaired next. We could talk about this all day long. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of insight into what we do, why we do it, how we do it, and the different means and methods that we incorporate, and let you know that we are trying to move forward, find the best way to do our jobs, and really make San Angelo amazing. So again, thank you for your time. Thank y'all for coming out and investing your personal time and listening to me talk and go over this. If you got any questions whatsoever, we love our jobs. We love to talk about it. Please come into my office. I'm right there at the City Hall Annex on Beauregard. Love to talk to you about it. I encourage you to come in, ask that question so we can talk about the whys behind something, and then hopefully solve a problem if you have one there too. So thank y'all very much.